Remember when we soared down homemade ramps on a wobbly bike or lit fireworks with zero caution? We somehow came out unscathed and have the hilarious scars to prove it. Let's revisit those risky, what were we thinking, adventures that formed our most treasured memories? Let's jump in. Ramp building and BMX dares. We raided Dad's lumber pile and propped up a wobbly plank against bricks, launching our bikes with wild abandon. Helmets? Optional, if that. Skinned knees and near face plants were common, but the thrill was irresistible. Did you ever piece together a ramp so precarious you wondered how it didn't collapse? Firecracker experiments. From sparklers to more powerful fireworks, kids of the past often lit fuses with minimal supervision. Some tested homemade combos by stuffing multiple fireworks together. Let's just say the results were unpredictable. Who else remembers that electric rush before the boom, hoping no one would lose a finger? Driveway roller skating on cracked pavement. We'd lace up metal wheel skates, ignoring the ruts and rocks on the driveway. One big pebble was enough to send us flying, but we persevered, because gliding downhill felt like freedom. Do you recall the screech of metal wheels across concrete and the rush when you nailed a perfect spin? Treehouse construction with questionable materials. No blueprint? No worries. Hammer, nails, and flimsy boards were enough for a makeshift perch among the branches. Despite the nails sometimes poking out or the floor sagging, we called it a fortress. Who else spent afternoons lugging scrap wood up a ladder, convinced it would hold forever? If you're enjoying this trip down memory lane, please hit the like button and subscribe. I've got more daring childhood tales just around the corner. Street hockey in actual traffic. Kids in many neighborhoods claimed the street as a makeshift hockey rink. Car was the universal pause button. We'd scramble out of the way, then resume the game. Drivers often honked. Some cheered, while we kept playing. Did you grow up listening for that trademark car shout, then jumping back into action? Overnight sleepovers in the backyard tent. Pitching a tent after dark and telling ghost stories with zero adult supervision? Yes, please. Every rustle in the bushes felt like a monster. We survived on pure adrenaline and occasionally a flashlight. Did you ever leap out of your sleeping bag after hearing a branch snap? Imagining Bigfoot or UFOs, homemade go-karts with sketchy brakes, a plank of wood on wheels, maybe a rope for steering, and no real plan for slowing down. Zooming downhill was pure exhilaration until you realized you had to stop. Recall the panic of dragging your feet on asphalt, praying the homemade cart wouldn't flip? Clackers and their bruises. Those acrylic balls swinging on strings? Fun for a while, until they whacked your forearm, or shattered. Safety regulations eventually cracked down, but we bragged about clack skills. Any memory of a clacker fiasco where you or a friend ended up with a solid whack on the knuckles? Water balloon launchers with zero aim. We crafted slingshots from bike inner tubes, launching water balloons over the next block, often with no clue where they'd land. Hilarious, but also prime chaos. Ever watch a balloon sail out of sight, silently praying it didn't smack a neighbor's window? BB gun battles. BB guns were sometimes treated like toys, leading to backyard battles that were more dangerous than we realized. Protective gear? Hardly. We chalked up any stings or welts to a lesson learned. Can you remember a time you heard that ominous ping too close for comfort? Jumping off the roof, onto mattresses or leaves. With a heap of old mattresses or a leaf pile as cushion, some of us believed we were invincible. We'd climb onto the garage or a low roof, count down, and leap, heart pounding. It usually ended in a safe landing, but one wrong move could mean serious scrapes or worse. Who else remembers that dizzying moment mid-air, hoping the pile below would break your fall? Riding in the back of pickup trucks? Seatbelts? Nah. we'd sprawl on blankets or sit on the wheel well as the truck rumbled along the road. The wind whipped our hair, and we'd wave at passing cars, feeling free as birds. Looking back, it's jaw-dropping to think how precarious that ride truly was. Did you love those breezy back-of-the-truck journeys, or did they secretly unnerve you? Metal playground slides in the summer heat. Tall, shiny, and scorching in the sun. Those metal slides were a recipe for minor burns. Yet we'd bravely climb up, sometimes without shoes, only to hop off halfway if it sizzled too much. Still, that swift descent was thrilling and occasionally skin-searing. Ever race up a slide ladder only to yelp when you sat down on the near-molten surface? Chemistry experiments with no safety gear. Armed with home chemistry sets or random household cleaning agents, we'd mix, stir, and wait for dramatic reactions. Sometimes it fizzed harmlessly. Other times, let's just say the room might smell funny for days. Goggles, gloves, and adult supervision? Not in those days. Any recollection of concocting a strange brew? Praying it wouldn't erupt all over your bedroom? Mystery potions in the kitchen. When bored, we'd raid the pantry, mixing soda, juice, vinegar, spices, and possibly ketchup into a jug. Then we'd dare each other to sip the result. Sure, it was revolting, but it was part of the fun. It's a miracle none of us got truly ill. Who else shudders remembering the taste and smell of those unholy kitchen brews? Sliding down the staircase on a mattress or cardboard. Instead of a sled on snow, some of us turned indoor stairs into a personal roller coaster. We'd grab an old piece of cardboard, a flattened box, or even a worn-out mattress, plop it at the top step, and whoosh to the bottom. Walls, banisters, and younger siblings weren't always safe from sudden collisions. Did you ever tumble off midway, only to laugh through the bruises and race back up for round 2? Riding bicycles while towing friends on skateboards. In an attempt to mimic surf culture on land, a friend would hold onto the back or side of a moving bike, gliding along on a skateboard. One bump or unexpected turn could send everyone sprawling. Yet, it felt like a genius trick at the time. Who else vividly remembers that precarious feeling of balancing or pedaling, praying no one hit a rock in the road? Exploring abandoned buildings or haunted houses. Armed with flashlights and boundless curiosity, we'd sneak into old, boarded-up houses, creaking floors, spooky spider webs, and all. Grimy windows, hidden corners, and rumored ghosts made it an adrenaline-fueled adventure. Realistically, rotted wood and sharp nails were the true dangers. Ever get that heart-pounding rush when a floorboard moaned, half convinced you'd found a ghost? Fireworks, sword fights with sparklers. 4th of July or similar celebrations meant sparklers in hand, often waved around like glow-in-the-dark swords. A few overly enthusiastic kids turned them into playful duels, likely sending embers flying. Miraculously, most of us escaped major burns. Did you compete to see who could keep their sparkler lit the longest? Or twirl it faster without singeing a friend's shirt? Hitchhiking, against every wise adult's advice. In some small towns or long rural roads, teens took the risk of sticking out a thumb for a ride, usually to get to the next city or the local hangout. It was seen as an accepted practice, until terrifying cautionary tales came along. Do you recall hearing about a friend who proudly claimed they got from point A to point B by hitching a ride, only to have everyone gasp at the danger? Building ziplines with rope and pulley. We'd find 2 trees, or garage rafters, tie a rope between them, and then attach a makeshift pulley or even a coat hanger for a zipline. Without harnesses or safety checks, it was a heart-thumping ride that might end with a loud thud if not slipped. Did your stomach flip the first time you let go and zoomed across the yard, hoping the branch would hold? Rock throwing contests. Whether skipping stones across a pond, or more dangerously, Lobbing rocks at abandoned cans and bottles, we'd fling pebbles like champion pitchers. Occasionally, an ill-aimed toss could ricochet or clip someone. Cue frantic apologies and disclaimers of, "I didn't mean it." Can you still recall that tense second when a rock flew off in the wrong direction and everyone scattered? Tag on moving vehicles. A true leap of faith. Some kids dared to touch a passing vehicle, like a slow-moving pickup, and run off without getting caught. It was part bravado, part madness, and drivers were often too stunned to react. Did you ever watch in horror or amazement as a friend sprinted toward a rolling car for that one risky moment of tag? Swing jumping at peak height. Playground swings become airborne catapults if you pump hard enough. Reaching that apex, kids would let go mid-swing, aiming to land in a sandpit or grass. Sure, it delivered a rush, but one slip and you were eating dirt. Anyone else remember that split second in mid-air, arms flailing, thinking, "Please land on my feet"? Nighttime dares in the woods. For rural kids, wandering the forest after dark was a test of courage. Armed with flashlights, or maybe nothing, we'd tell ghost stories, try not to trip over roots, and occasionally play pranks on each other. If we saw glowing eyes in the distance, who knows if it was a raccoon or something more sinister? Did your heart pound double time every time you swore you heard a twig snap behind you? Trampoline mayhem. No nets, no pads. Before safety enclosures, trampolines were just a bouncy mat on springs, often perched on uneven grass. We'd leap, attempt mid-air flips, and occasionally crash into a friend or land off the edge. Yet we kept climbing back on, fueled by adrenaline and laughter. Who else recalls the collective gasp when someone flew off, only to bounce back up, ready for another go? Cardboard wings and rooftop flights. Inspired by cartoons or superhero flicks, some kids crafted cardboard wings or capes, then took a flying leap off a low roof or a tree branch. Usually the flight ended in a frantic mid-air flail and a thump into bushes or soft grass. Do you remember gathering scraps from the garage, convinced you'd defy gravity for at least a second or two? Rope swings over creek beds. If you found a sturdy branch above a shallow creek, tying a rope to it felt like striking gold. We'd swing out, sometimes jumping mid-arc to splash into murky water. Broken ropes or loose knots could lead to unexpected and occasionally painful landings. Anyone else get that surge of excitement and fear right before letting go over the water? Wagon surfing behind a bike or car. Attaching a wagon or skateboard by rope to a moving bike, or, yikes, a slow car, was the ultimate in extreme sports. One bump in the road could send the rider sprawling, but the bragging rights were enormous. Ever witness a spectacular wipeout and then see the daredevil hop right back on for another round? Climbing prohibited structures. Whether it was a local water tower, a half-built house, or a tall fence marked "Keep Out," the lure of a forbidden climb was irresistible. With zero harnesses or adult supervision, we'd clamber up, hearts pounding. The view was a triumph until you had to figure out how to get down. Who else felt that wave of triumph when you reached the top, followed by the sinking realization you were only halfway finished with the adventure? Sledding down streets in the snow. When snow days arrived, some kids opted for the steepest, slickest neighborhood hills. Sometimes those hills were actual roads. We'd zoom straight down, occasionally dodging oncoming traffic at the bottom. Cue parents scolding us later, but at the time, it felt like unstoppable fun. Anyone else brace themselves for a fast-moving car around the corner while gripping the sled rope for dear life? Firecracker lasso. A more extreme take on fireworks. Tying small firecrackers together on a rope and swinging them around your head, letting them explode mid-swing. The dizzying sparks looked impressive until a fuse burned too quickly or a spark flung dangerously close. Did you ever hold your breath as you lit the rope Wondering if you'd have enough time to spin it? Creek river body rafting. When the local creek or river rose after rain, some kids waded in with nothing but inner tubes or makeshift rafts, floating downstream with minimal control. Branches, rocks, and strong currents made it a gamble, but it felt like a daring expedition. Who remembers losing a flip-flop in the current, then paddling frantically after it? Home science kits with real chemicals. Some store-bought kits back then weren't all that different from actual lab sets. They included tiny glass beakers and real chemicals for experiments. Without protective gloves or thorough instructions, mishaps were practically inevitable. Spills, odd smells, or minor explosions. Any memory of mixing something questionable, then watching it smoke while you panicked about a potential meltdown in your bedroom? Rope bridges over ditches. Spot a ditch or narrow ravine. Tie 2 ropes, one high, one lower, to form a basic bridge. We'd inch across, arms around the top rope, feet shuffling on the bottom rope. One slip, and it was a short but shocking drop. Did you ever feel your arms trembling mid-crossing, suddenly second-guessing your adventurous spirit? These hair-raising activities remind us of a freer, if riskier, era, one where we dove headlong into adventure, often with a shrug for safety. From the thrill of a firecracker's fuse to the triumph of conquering a homemade ramp, these memories still glow bright. What about you? Did you or your friends dabble in any of these stunts? Or is there another wild pastime you've never forgotten? Share in the comments, and let's celebrate all the crazy escapades we miraculously survived.